Welcome back to episode 78 of the Owl Triangle. We are back, and you'll notice that we have one person missing today. Obviously, Caoilte, the Barra, is with us as always, along with me, Ian O'Neill. No Andy Stevenson today. He's over in Sri Lanka. Yeah, out there gallivanting there, having a great time. I mean, he's a well-travelled man, Caoilte, I'll put it that way. I don't know, is he getting paid for mixed martial art interviews there on the side? I don't know how he can ruffle off all these money for trips. We'll have to seriously grill him when he comes back. But I think he's in Sri Lanka, Cambodia, but he's making me very, very jealous with all of his Instagram posts, riding the train and all that beautiful scenery over there. So we hope he's having a fantastic time over at that part of the world. We miss him. We are looking forward for his return. But as I said, it'll be just myself and yourself today, Caoilte. How are you keeping, my friend?
Good now. I have become officially an LFL fan for one weekend only of the year, as I do every year for the Super Bowl. So I'm all set up here. Missing Andy now. As he's off traveling the world, gallivanting, as I was saying, and jeez, looks like he's having a great time swinging off trains and all sorts. Unbelievable altogether.
Great crack. It looked like. Yeah, you mentioned the Super Bowl. Obviously, look, this is be out a couple of days after the Super Bowl. We were recording this on Super Bowl Sunday into the Super Bowl. Yep, love it too myself. I'm going to probably watch it later on. I big Kendrick Lamar fan too, so I'm looking forward to the halftime show. But look, the result will already be said and done. It'll be set in stone.
We already know it's going to be the Chiefs.
I know. Yeah. The Chiefs and the refs will get them to do the three-peat. Taylor Swift will be up in arms. The ratings will be high, and everyone will be given out for a couple of days as well. I don't think I've been talking to you since the big storm hit Ireland. Huh? Did you get hit hard with it, or?
Oh no, nothing. You're right. Actually, nothing. It was absolutely like. I was walking around the next day going for coffee thinking, was there actually a storm? But sure, people without electricity until until February 1st and all. So it was terrible in some parts of the country, like over in I know Mayo was hit very badly, some of the parts outskirts of Limerick as well. But the city and I think the likes of Dublin didn't really get hit didn't really feel much of the effects, nothing too bad.
Yeah, we're getting absolutely trounced with snow there and really cold conditions over here in Saskatoon. The last couple of weeks, it's like going to be like a solid -30 for the next week. So, not looking forward. It's really stay indoors kind of job. But enough shit talking, I guess. Let's get into mixed martial arts. And lots have happened. We try to shine a positive light on mixed martial arts and Irish mixed martial arts here in particular, Caoilte, but we're going to have to start here, obviously. Since the last time we were on, a lot of moving and shaking in the world of Irish mixed martial arts, and speaking in particular about Conor McGregor, certain comments towards Paul Hughes and other comments that he was making on social media tirades over the last couple of weeks have kind of, rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way. In terms of, especially, let's talk about certain comments that he made towards Paul Hughes after his fight with Usman Nurmagomedov, and questioning his nationalism, I guess, coming from the north of Ireland, which pretty disgusting comments overall, to be honest, in my opinion, and not what you want to see from someone who has such an important influence on mixed martial arts, and especially Irish mixed martial arts as well, Caoilte. I mean, when you've seen some of the tweets come out and some of the reaction, what were your thoughts? I know I was on with Shawnee, and I expressed some opinions here again, but I was on with Sean on the big podcast, kind of talking about it as well. And I think we have to talk about it here on the L Triangle too, of course. And curious to hear what your opinion on everything that has went down over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, like the overriding one, like it's very sad. It's embarrassing. It's disgraceful. But overall, it's a bit sad because, like, how has he gotten to this point? He's someone that people have cheered for years. Young kids have looked up to. People have come up inspired by him in the sport, and then what was to a lot of people a role model is making these comments in various different comments that are just, it doesn't make sense. I don't know why. I don't understand why he feels the need to say some of these things. It's especially like he's a grown man, and I don't feel it's acceptable whatsoever. And yeah, it's all very sad, and people are right to be very offended by some of the stuff he has said, because I think he's out of line with a lot of it. And it doesn't seem like anyone's pulling him on the comments either, and people are saying it looks like people who are associated keep quiet. Yeah, I really don't like it. It's not a good look for Irish mixed martial arts, and it's more ammunition to paint Irish mixed martial arts in a bad light in the mainstream media too. And that's one thing I think that I'd like to get across from it, because the mainstream media don't exactly portray the sport in a very good light. And with him being the main face of the sport for years, and the papers, they will write anything he's doing, they will write about. But it just gives them it just adds fuel to the fire of how they can portray Irish mixed martial arts in a very bad way. And the scene is thriving and erupting with so many good news stories. Paul Hughes leading the line at the moment alongside Ian Garry at the very top of the sport and representing Ireland in such an incredible fashion. And then you've got Conor McGregor coming out with the various different comments referring to Paul Hughes. Then he's got some about Khabib. Then he's got others online where you think he was speaking to Anthony Pretty Boy Taylor. And it's
using the N-word and just outrageous stuff.
I can't believe it. Yeah. So I don't get what and it's all in such a close timeline of these various different things that I just question what's going on, that he's making these comments, because it's quite worrying as well. This is someone who, he was always quite brash and out there, but this is crossing the line to a whole new level, in my opinion. And there's people who imagine who have, train the same gym, who've been around him, who know him, and probably what the hell's going on? Because you wouldn't feel comfortable if someone's coming out making these comments, and then you might have to train with them, and you're not happy with them, I guess. It's so yeah. Overall, I just find it a bit sad, and I don't know if people are if people are trying to pull him on it, and
people aren't trying to pull him on it though, Caoilte, and that's the problem, as you kind of alluded to already. It's does no one have the ability to kind of pull him on one side, and maybe they are behind the scenes and we don't know, and maybe he's not listening, but it definitely portrays, whether it's management, whether it's close friends, whether it's family, the worrying what we're seeing and the trend that Conor is going down in recent times, and if we could go back to his relationship with Irish mixed martial arts, obviously came up on the scene here, very, very popular, very great fighter, and a lot of people would say he carried Irish mixed martial arts on his shoulders for many years, especially through his rise up through the UFC and everything like that. It was, in and around the Khabib fight where we did kind of see that pendulum shift, where it's a darkness and a negativity that seems to be surrounding him now. And, the projection of that negativity on social media to, Khabib obviously was always getting it. His opponents got it as well. But it was always, apart from the Khabib fight, there was always a kind of a line that was drawn that was never really crossed. And, he tiptoed over that line a couple of times as well. But now it's just, he's jumped over that line, and he's not attacking his opponents. He's not attacking, he is attacking Khabib, but he's attacking fighters who kind of grew up looking up at him, kind of got inspired by him, and all for what? All because Paul Hughes said that he's nothing like Conor McGregor, which is totally true. Paul Hughes is nothing like Conor McGregor, so he wasn't wrong in saying that. But it's the nastiness of the meaning of what he's saying and attacking the nationalism. And, obviously Paul who grew up in Derry as well, and, you won't meet many prouder Irish people up in Derry and Paul, obviously a proud man who carries the tricolours as well. So it's you notice with some things it can become from maybe a miseducation or an ignorance, but with the comments towards Paul, Caoilte, there was a nastiness about it. and the way he went at him. And one thing I didn't like about it was it kind of took the shine away from Paul in what was, a shining moment in his career. Obviously didn't get the win, but, very close to it. People were, up in arms about the fight and how good it was. And then, a couple of days later, the shine kind of gets taken away from the interaction. I thought Paul Hughes absolutely handled himself so well during the whole kind of, couple of days that where it all kind of went south as well. And as you would expect him to do, he always has handled himself very well. And, it's just Paul Hughes is a person who you want to be representing Irish mixed martial arts.
Yeah, the way he handled himself throughout was because I imagine waking up one morning to this absolute shitstorm erupting because of this because of a clip that's put out there. And the clip, I think he spoke to Ariel Helwani about it as well, where the clip, I think you could look at I think it was to show, it shows a lot of, burning bridges, very good. I don't think some of the things were meant in ways that may have been interpreted.
When you're talking about the Irish versus Dagestan kind of narrative that they went with, obviously, with Hunter and Khabib, it ended in such a negative and a bad way with the brawl in Madison Square Garden. And I think it was a little bit refreshing, in my opinion, to see the interactions between, the FAI camp with all the guys and how they reacted with Khabib's and Nurmagomedov's after the fight too, which was much needed, I feel. And, it kind of separates yourself from the negativity of that rivalry. Even though, PFL were trying to feed into it a little bit, and, there was some things said before the fight, but what was martial arts all about, Caoilte? You've been watching it and you compete yourself. Martial arts is about, laying it all in there competitively and then, offering your hand in respect after the fight. And, it was great to see Paul doing that. He didn't do anything wrong. And, it's just kind of disappointing that it kind of played out this way, really, isn't it?
Really is. I think there's an opportunity there for everything to be, for all those bridges to be burned by every party involved, and not to add fuel to the fire like has been added on social media by Conor in the aftermath. And yeah, it's like it's mad, really, because I don't think there was any need for all this to go as far as it has done now. And it definitely did, as you alluded to, the fact that it took a bit of the shine away from the fight. It did. I think people still have spoken about the fight, and it's really solidified Paul Hughes. That fight solidified him at the top of that division. But this aftermath is really kind of, it kind of took away the hype a little bit.
The excitement and the the positivity, Caoilte. That's even though Paul didn't get the win, he stepped onto the big stage and proved that he belongs, which, we were kind of expecting him to do that anyway, but it's more like, the rest of the mixed martial arts community kind of noticed and kind of stood out and arguably probably the best fight in PFL history, and to be honest, from a skill set, technical kind of excitement level, it was elite level mixed martial arts that was on show. And the comments after, maybe it's maybe a sense of bitterness that maybe Conor comes to the realization that he's not maybe going to be in those kind of fights too much anymore in his career, the way things are going. It's a real shame, because it also casts a negative shadow over the mixed martial arts community in Ireland, which is a fantastic community and has endless amount of great people that are involved, whether coaches, fighters, media members, and you know what, in some ways, Caoilte, the fallout of all of this, it was great to see the community kind of come together, and the overall consensus, I feel, is that the recent actions of Conor have kind of been the final straw for a lot of people, really, isn't it?
I think so. I saw you see people. People really spoke out, and it wasn't just a couple. It was, I logged on that day and saw across all social media platforms, between Twitter, Instagram, it was everywhere. People were really they were standing by kind of Paul Hughes in this situation, weren't really having Conor's comments at all. They were having none of it, because it was because they were just straight up ridiculous. disgraceful. And I do think probably comes from a place of bitterness. But it was lovely to see the community kind of pull together there and show just what Irish MMA is actually about, and how, despite people being from all these different gyms, really stood up, spoke up, and stood together kind of this against something quite nasty being said. I gotta admit, the way Paul Hughes handled it was exceptional. He stood there and he just laughed. He's like, this is sad. The fact that, he was saying it was kind of sad that you're saying this stuff. I think the timing of that as well, the timing of the comments were poor as well. If I don't have dates exactly, I believe.
Yeah, it was the day before, the anniversary of Bloody Sunday, obviously that tragedy that happened up in the north of Ireland as well. And that's, that adds that, that adds that level of nastiness to the comments with the timing and everything. Yeah, and it's just a shame to see. And I kind of spoke about this on the big podcast. I was like, angry and upset, to be honest, because we've been doing this podcast and we have a deep passion ourselves, both you and I and Andy, for Irish mixed martial arts, and we want so much to see the progression and the recognition of the sport in the country so bad, because the work that's been going on behind the scenes and the sacrifices that all of the Irish athletes make from the amateur scene to even before amateur level. We've worked hard to create a junior setting here, and we'll talk about the IMMAFs in a little bit as well later on in this podcast, from that level to the IMMAF amateurs, to the amateur domestic scene, to great shows that are being put on throughout the country as well. When you have Conor who can just make a couple of throwaway comments and just shit all over the good work that everybody else is doing, it's hard not to be a little bit insulted by it and frustrated. Like I said to Sean Caoilte, I love doing this. I love coming on and chatting to you guys. I love talking about MMA. I love MMA in general. I love shining the light on the Irish scene. I'm so proud of what we've been able to do over the last number of years and tell people's stories. And there was a period of time for 2 days where I was like, do I even want to do this anymore? It just got me so down the dumps.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, fuck that. You're going to have to take me off my deathbed to stop me talking about Irish mixed martial arts. And that's the truth. I think we need to continue to do what we're doing here on the Auld Triangle and what other media outlets are doing as well, in highlighting some of the positive aspects and some of the great things that Irish mixed martial arts are producing. And I just wish that, Conor needs to kind of take his shadow away from Irish mixed martial arts, because at this current time, and probably, for the foreseeable future, maybe ever, he's not going to be a representative of Irish mixed martial arts. And I don't, I think a lot of people who are close to Irish mixed martial arts realize that, and hopefully, people from the larger MMA sphere will kind of come to that realization as well, Caoilte, is that, there's a lot of other great things that are happening in this community. And it's important. Look, obviously it's important for us to talk about these times as well, but we'll always try and shine as a positive light on the community as we can. And I think that's important to do that.
Yeah. And I think the way Irish MMA has grown, especially in recent years, that if you look at, I guess Twitter's one of the bigger ones, where you have a diehard MMA fan base that are, I think they don't even, they know kind of what Irish MMA is about nowadays. So they don't just see what's being posted by him and take that as a true reflection on the scene as a whole, because the scene is so strong in so many different promotions around the world, and it's garnered such a strong reputation outside of him that I don't think it actually has, on the MMA fan base, I don't think it has much of an impact really on Irish MMA, because of people. To be honest, I think people are probably used to seeing shite being put up on his Twitter, tweet deleted, and it saying all sorts of things. To be honest with you, I think people are just like, what? I don't think people are surprised anymore. And maybe at this time you could be a bit surprised the lengths it went, but it's so sad that it has to get. It's at that point where you see this stuff. I was fuming reading some of it, but at the same time I sat back and I was like, I'm not even surprised at this point. I just put down the phone and I was like,
another
whatever.
kind of a sad thing as well, is that, you're not surprised to see these kind of comments as well. I maybe we'll finish off with this, Caoilte. You know, for me, I struggle to see a way back for Conor at this stage, the way things are going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously combat sports, you know, and sports in general, you'll have a good comeback story, but I think there's too many bridges that have been burned here already. Do you see a way back for Conor? And you know, he's still getting a lot of support online, but it seems to be all coming from the States and talks about being president. Hate to break to you, he ain't going to be the president of Ireland. It's not going to happen. You know, and all this talk about that as well is absolutely nonsensical in my opinion. But is there a way back? Like, after everything that has happened, Caoilte, do you think Conor McGregor will be a guy who he'll never get the support that he had on his uprising through the sport? But is there a way back for him at this stage, in your opinion?
Oh God, yeah, it's a tough question.
It's a deep one to throw at you, but
it is. It's hard. It's hard to know. I think you know, like I think it's for each. You know, it's for individuals to decide that and how they want to support someone. I think you know there's a lot of work to be done for that to get to that point. The answers I don't really know. There's a lot of work to be done. I think in terms of it will never reach, I guess, the support levels or whatever of years and years ago. But yeah, I'm not too sure about that one, to be honest with you. It would take a lot of work, but at the same time, you never know nowadays, to be honest with you. It could go either way. Who knows? But one thing I will say is I don't think it's going to impact. I don't think it'll impact him ever fighting again. Once he fights, he's still going to have this crazy support. Always will. I think, you know, there'll be people who just look past everything and not care and still be, you know, and support regardless. So I think, yeah, as for the deep part of the question, I'm not too sure. And it's a tough one to call.
It is. And, you know, it was somewhat of an unfair question because at this stage, it doesn't seem like there's a way back. There needs to be some serious lifestyle changes. He's not living the life of a martial artist. He's not doing the things that, you know, got him to the dance and got him to the position that he's in right now. And, you know, the way it's all kind of played out is just, it's left a bitter taste in my mouth where, you know, for many years you try and maybe give Conor somewhat of the benefit of the doubt, but the last couple of months have not been good for him. The court case, speaking out against Paul, everything, you know, is just coming against him now, and it's hard to see a way back for me. It's hard to see a way back. I always thought, you know, he'd definitely come back, he'd definitely fight again, but I don't know. The doubts are kind of increasing in my mind.
Well, I always think he'll fight again.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to, but like, I mean, geez, man, it's like it's not been good the last couple of months for him for sure, and maybe that might be the best for him. Maybe a bit of isolation, concentrating on a camp again, getting his head right. But you know, he portrays a very, very unhappy individual, and that's pretty sad to see overall. And hopefully, you know, it doesn't end tragically. That's the kind of be all and end all, and that you don't want to see that happen to him, no matter what your feelings are, and
yeah, of course,
who he is as a person. So, any final thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, do you know what? I think the one good thing is I think we've been doing this podcast for quite a while now. Like we're 78 episodes in, and I can't tell you. We could probably count on two hands how many how many times we've actually spoken about Conor McGregor, and that's just, I guess, how long he's been out. Kind of, he's not really been active, as well as how good the scene is, how positive the scene is, and how much is going on that an Irish MMA podcast, I guess, if you look up years and years ago, would have been so maybe centrally focused around him if you were to do one back in, I guess, the days he was much more active. Now it's this booming scene that we don't really speak about him that much. And when we do, it's either, okay, there was the fight coming up, and
we do when we have to. Like, I think, you know, we all kind of had that conversation, and, you know, maybe without even having a solid agreement, just kind of agreed that, you know, we could have talked about him a lot more, and we could have clipped up clips, and we could put Conor McGregor in the clips and it would go viral. But we didn't start this podcast to shine a light on Conor McGregor and what he's doing. We started this podcast to shine a light on the great things that are happening in the Irish mixed martial arts community. And that doesn't matter if it's in the south of Ireland, or if it's in the north of Ireland, or if it's in the east of Ireland or the west of Ireland. It doesn't matter to us. You know, there's fantastic shows and fantastic fighters throughout the country of Ireland. And, you know, I think, you know, I'm very glad that you said that, because it's something that really means a lot to both of us. And I'll definitely speak for Andy as well, in saying, you know, he has that deep passion, obviously, for the community and what's going on as well. So, yeah, I think, look, Andy's not here. I know he would love to be here to say his piece, but I want to give him, you know, the ultimate kudos as well for, you know, he shined a light on it on social media, and rightly so, and expressed his opinion excellently as well. You know, I'm glad I got the opportunity to do it as well on with Sean, and here as well with yourself. And, you know, I think I'm proud of how we've handled the situation, and Andy should be as well. I know he's not here to kind of express his further opinions too, but, you know, maybe that's a conversation we can have with him when he comes back, or sometime down the line. But we must move on. We'll move on. We've talked about that subject for long. A very important thing, obviously, you know, I wanted to kind of express some more opinions on it on this platform, and obviously you did as well. So, talking about the great things that are happening in Irish mixed martial arts, we had Stephen Costello over in Australia. Obviously, all action in Australia this week, with the UFC and everything else. But Eternal MMA 92 did take place yesterday, February 8th, this past weekend. Stephen Costello took on David Martinez for the Eternal Welterweight Championship, Caoilte. A good start for Stephen in this fight. That quickly kind of turns out a little bit, and obviously I'll let you kind of discuss and give us a breakdown of the fight, and then we'll kind of discuss the aftermath. You know, he got off to a good start, obviously hurting Martinez very well in the first round, but you know, it was a good slobber knocker of a fight to get us going.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Now, I thought it was, you know, it was well matched fight. I thought, yeah, they went for it, and it, you know, Stephen, now, you know, regardless of the result, he put on a good show, and I know he was he spoke afterwards about he was battling a chest infection as well, which really didn't help things. And you could see in the third round, and I'll get into that there now in a minute, but you could see it in the third round him kind of tiring a bit, but it was a great fight overall. Like, and he started so strong, as you mentioned there. He hurt David Martinez early with the straight punch, and he had him backed against the cage, landing some nice mix of punches. That right hand has serious power, and Martinez wanted none of it. And from then on, you could see, okay, Martinez was really trying to close the distance, because he was the smaller of the two, and try and tie him up, get him against the cage, try and wear Stephen down, and land some shots from there, and trying to get the fight to the ground. Where Stephen kind of excelled, because what they were speaking about in commentary is how good David Martinez's takedowns and grappling is, and people have really and people have not been able, you know, it's been his main tool, basically. And
yeah, he's been able to take down guys at will, really. But he didn't have it all his own way here against Stephen, didn't he? Not.
No, not at all. He really, Stephen did really well to kind of not be taken down early in the fight, and kind of keep things standing. He was, you know, he made him tied up against the cage a little bit, the two of them. And Martinez at one point, you know, he got an elbow from the tried to land some elbows from the break. There was Stephen's nose. I didn't see the shot. Stephen's nose was all bloodied up in the first round from, I'm not sure which it was, but
was it the stiff jab? Maybe that might have caused that.
Yeah, the one that kind of stopped the momentum early.
Yeah, when he kind of hurt him, Stephen hurt him with the right hand, and then the stiff jab landed. Might have kind of, you know, sometimes I've had a few belts in the nose. I'm sure you have as well. Sometimes you're not going to get that immediate blood flow from it. It might come maybe a couple of seconds, 10 or 20 seconds after the fact, but it was hard to kind of tell what did it. Maybe it might have been the impact from a takedown attempt perhaps as well.
Yeah, it was a weird one, because he kind of once they broke out this kind of clinch position against the cage, he just had blood in his. I was like, what caused that? But yeah, it wasn't pretty now, but yeah, rough one to get early on in the fight, considering it was 5 rounds, I believe. Or scheduled for 5 rounds. You know, Stephen, he had a good flurry near the end of the round and was really kind of going for trying to take the round from Martinez. But I think tough one. If I probably would have been leaning towards David Martinez to win that first round. Second round, then it was kind of David Martinez, whatever his name is, was just trying to tie Stephen up again. Wanted to get the fight to the ground, but was kind of on it. He was struggling to massively, and then at one point, he did manage to kind of just sweep that leg and get the takedown, and was trying to. You could tell instantly he wanted the back, he wanted the rear naked choke, but it was a fantastic moment to fight where it was like this wizard from Stephen Costello to reverse the position and get the fight back standing was just brilliant. And I was like, wow, it looked like it was going to be a real momentum shifter. And then there was this big left hand from Martinez that kind of buckled Stephen a bit and had him up against the fence, and he was landing some knees, and the momentum was really swaying in Martinez's favor here. And it was a tough second round. And then in the third, I said Stephen was looking a little bit tired. Martinez got the takedown, got the back, and kind of he was very, very, very patient with trying to get the submission. And then he went for it when he knew he could get the hand under the neck, or the arm under the neck, and then got the rear naked choke. But look, it was a good performance despite the loss. Great fight to watch. I enjoyed it. I don't think it would. I'm not sure if it would be run back. Stephen's speaking about.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Stephen get another opportunity there. Obviously, after traveling the last time and the fallout from the original title fight he was supposed to be in with the weight miss and everything like that, I think Eternal handled that situation correctly and gave Costello this chance. I got to give Martinez credit for, we talk about fights sometimes, Caoilte, and when you go for a takedown and it's not going your way, sometimes we'll see fighters maybe give up on that, but Martinez didn't give up on that, and kind of, he was making Stephen work a little bit, and obviously Stephen did get tired in round 3 because of that fact. And as you said, I think Andy was speaking with him and shared some information that Stephen had been dealing, not making any excuses, but just mentioned that he had been dealing with some health issues ahead of the fight, which is definitely not going to help your cardio when you're kind of dealing with a grueling fight like it was as well. But look at Stephen he can be proud, he can dust himself off, and he can go back to the drawing board. There's no doubt about that at all, Caoilte.
Yeah, exactly. And sure, look, he's always great to watch in there. Like, he's fun. That was a really good fight. Last one we saw him as well. He's been brilliant. So we'll see. It'd be cool to see him in Eternal. I know it's a massive distance to travel, which probably isn't ideal. So hopefully we get to see him maybe on a European card or somewhere a bit closer to home. I think he was mentioning that in a post he put out there earlier today as well. So look, we'll see. He'll be back soon. He's been and that was probably his toughest fight to date, and he didn't look out of place whatsoever. So I'm excited to see what's next now.
Yeah, absolutely no shame in that loss at all. So kudos to Stephen. Flying the flag over in Australia. Alan Philpott was in action on the card as well. Caoilte back after a brief stint on the sidelines and flirted with retirement, but I'm glad to see him back in there. And obviously just missed the weight here. It was off by about 0.7 of a pound, so just barely missed, which was unfortunate, but we got to mention that too. But looked phenomenal in there. I mean, he took on Tomoya Hirakawa, won by first round KO, and it was a beautiful KO too as well. I think you were mentioning the read that Alan got off Hirakawa, kind of leaning and dipping in, end up landing that knee slash. I think it was one of those mixtures of one. Was it a knee? Was it a shin? Was it a
nasty
foot?
one to get?
Something landed, and it landed well. And Hirakawa went down, but it was a brilliant, polished performance by Alan Philpott against a dangerous guy too, we have to say.
Yeah, your man Hirakawa was coming to try and close the distance and take his head off. He was really, because Hirakawa was the smaller of the two. He's trying to get in, and he was dipping when he was coming in, trying to get those hooks over and land one on Philpott. He did land. Now Hirakawa he caught him a couple of times. He really wanted to get in the inside and box, but what I thought Philpott did well was kind of use the cage fairly well. He was throwing up a good mix of kicks through, kind of keep that distance, and those kicks paid dividends near the end, because I thought at first it was a throw. When I first saw it, it's like, oh, he caught him at nearly a throwaway kick. Just saw the opportunity to try and land a kick or whatever. But then I realized, I slowed it down. I was like, oh, he's seen the fact this guy's dipping, and he just throws up that kick and catches him with the knee, and oh, what a knockout. And despite despite missing weight, what a win.
Brilliant. And you can see how much it meant to him as well, Caoilte. You know, that's not a guy that's ready to hang up his gloves yet, based off, you know, the reaction and getting that win too. So hopefully, you know, Alan will be able to kind of bounce off that win, maybe create a couple of opportunities with maybe working his way into a title shot. He's got the skill set there, you know. He's got the skill set to make it happen. And I mean, you know, you work your way up Eternal, like getting an Eternal title is nothing to be snuffed at. So that could create some other opportunities for him as well.
Yeah, and like he's been around years. He's only 32 as well. It's crazy the amount of fights this man's had. I don't think he's anywhere near ready to hang up those gloves, especially after a finish like that. He lost his last fight. He did fight for a title the last time round. I think it was February last year, and came up short. But look, there could be some more opportunities. Australian MMA scene's kind of booming with Eternal and maybe one other at the moment as well. He fought on one championship before. Who knows? You know, there could be who knows what opportunities could present themselves. But it's good to see him active. Good to see the Irish down under thriving in on the Australian MMA scene.
Absolutely. Lots of Irish through the years. So maybe inside and outside of the cage have been thriving down in Australia. It's great to see the boys down there. I couldn't go to Australia because
snakes.
No snakes.
Spiders.
Whatever. I'm not a fan of snakes. Spiders. It's spiders for me, Caoilte. I am petrified of spiders, and Jesus Christ, some of the spiders down there would absolutely eat me alive. I'd say there's not like I'm a little bit better. I've been working on it, but like I have proper arachnophobia. Like it's fucking insane that like sometimes I wouldn't be able to sleep in a room if there was a spider there. Hence why I moved to fucking Saskatoon, because no spiders would survive -30 cold. But yeah, not a big spider guy. What about yourself? Spiders or snakes?
No, so I wouldn't mind too much now. I get a bit of a laugh and try and brush them off. It's funnier saying that I saw these two Irish girls move up. They just moved over to Australia. They rang the police or the fire brigade, whichever it was, because they got into the room with this massive spider. Just arrived just off the plane. They were bricking it. It was so funny. But I could imagine now Ian rocking up and just seeing spiders like, yeah, no, I'm back to Kilkenny.
Tapping out straight away. Wants to see a spider there. Don't care. Ain't fucking with it. Anything that has 8 legs, I want nothing to do with. I'll put it to you that way. I kind of got sidetracked there a little bit. Let's talk about Ryan Keogh, who was over at Hexagone MMA February 1st, a little while ago, this weekend before last, obviously taking on Michel Pinaud, winning by submission via rear naked choke in the very first round. Pretty easy one-sided win for Ryan Keogh here, Caoilte.
Oh yes, less than a minute. Like, just, you know, went in and took him down with the ease, progressed past the guard or past half guard, managed to take the back, got the RNC, body triangle, rear naked choke, and that's all she wrote. It was, probably barely broke a sweat, to be honest. She probably broke more of a sweat in the warm-up. But yeah, that's another win on the record. I think it's worth.
If he continues with Hexagone, I think, you know, with all due respect to that promotion and to Ryan as well, and this isn't even an insult. This is kind of to talk about how good Ryan is. He needs a better competition than that, to be honest. Not saying that this was a mismatch, but you know, Ryan Keogh is going to be a difficult guy to match up. So you'll be hoping that we get another little bit of a step up for him if he is going again with Hexagone.
Yeah, I guess their matchmaking can be a bit, I don't know, it could be hit and miss nearly. Because in his last fight, I think it's worth noting here, his last fight was it was well matched. Like, you know, it was a tough debut he had against Slimane Hassaini, I want to say, Belgian guy, 3-1, and Ryan actually lost it. But I think Slimane he failed an anti-doping test, so the French Mixed Martial Arts Federation actually overturned the decision for a win in favor of Ryan. So now he moves to 2-0 after previously being 0-1. So I think he'll get good. Okay, I think he'll get good matchups. If his debut's anything to go by, he'll get decent competition out there. And they've got some good fighters in that roster. So it'd be interesting to see if he sticks with Hexagone and kind of what they start what tests they can provide him next.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, exciting times. Let's move back a little closer to home. Obviously, I want to say it is the first domestic card of the year, wouldn't it? Be the first one. IÚR Fighting Championships. Have we have one already?
It is, yeah. First domestic card. Yeah, that's it.
February 23rd in Corey. Obviously, IÚR Fighting Championships is back. Decky McAleenan's show is back with a bang, I've got to say, Caoilte. I mean, looking at a couple of the matchups that we have here, a couple of mouth-watering fights here. Obviously, pro bantamweight Gheorghe Grozav versus Ciaran Brady, top of the card. Another professional fight between Aaron McDonald, Jake Gilpin. We have a pro featherweight fight between Lewis Byrne and Alex McCook. I mean, lots of good fights there. And let's start with those top three professional ones. Brilliant matchmaking here by Decky McAleenan, and I can't wait to tune into this card, which takes place on February 23rd.
I absolutely love it. Yeah, these IÚR cards are Decky's top match. I think the matchmaking on the island at the moment is very, very strong, and we're seeing it in these early cards. We'll speak about a few more after, but on this IÚR card in particular, like Gheorghe Grozav and Ciaran Brady that's a Cage Warriors fight. Like, that's high prelim Cage Warriors fight. That's top. Absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's one of those you couldn't call it. It's so good. So yeah, brilliant matchmaking here. Aaron McDonald's back and fighting in Ireland against Jake Gilpin, who's making his pro debut. So another Ireland versus Ireland clash, and then Lewis Byrne, Alex McCook. Lewis Byrne, top amateur, made his pro debut there last year. I think he struggling to get a matchup across the year. That finally got to make his pro debut, and Alex McCook, who's probably not had a great run in the amateur ranks, now moving up to try and moving to the pro ranks to try and get a win and kick off his pro career. But geez, it'll be a tough test in Lewis Byrne. Overall, though, like even the amateur fights, though, Ian, like they're
I was going to ask you next. Take us through some of the amateur fights that are standing out to you, Caoilte.
Jake Nye versus Morgan Hines for the bantamweight belt is absolute cracker, and then Sarah Elliott Sheridan and Chloe Crozier is
great fight,
top match.
It's good to see Sarah Elliott Sheridan back in there again. Obviously, she's had some difficult times in trying to get matched in mixed martial arts. She was over there at Cage Fight Series and places in Europe, and fights fell out at the last minute in 2024. I think she competed in a K1 fight in the Cage Legacy card that we were at last year, but she obviously get action mixed martial arts in the mixed martial arts world, and she's getting a good test here in Chloe Crozier as well. It's a fantastic matchup.
Yeah, Chloe's really she's been incredible in the last year, really kind of come on, and she had a great fight with Kai O'Sullivan that went to decision. It was at Akuma. Then she'd win over Ava Cruz, and then she kind of derailed the hype train for Louise Brady. Not really, but took the O from that amateur record of Louise Brady, and with that armbar in the first round at Cage Conflict, that was great win. Won the belt with that as well, and now faces Sarah, a fight that was meant to happen, I believe, was it earlier last year in IÚR, but I think that fell out. I can't remember why, and now we're finally get to see it. So top matchmaking once again, as we're kind of we're used to getting it with IÚR now. Decky always makes some really good fights.
Yeah, like we've talked to Decky a couple of times here on the podcast, obviously, and we've talked to him in particular about his matchmaking, and you can see he beams when he talks about fights, because he's a fight fan. He's a mixed martial arts purist, and he loves, obviously for the card is great, but I think, he generally puts on fights that he wants to see and what he thinks the fans want to see as well. So all kudos to Decky. We'll break down that card for sure in great detail as it takes place February 23rd in Newry, as I said. Really looking forward to that one. Great to see the domestic scene come alive for the start of 2025. A couple of other fights we'll talk about real quickly here before we move on to other things. Paul Buckley has been announced for the Arabian Fight League on February 15th against Ahmed Mohammed. Paul, obviously, we spoke with his good friend John Mitchell, obviously, and I think it was the last episode of this podcast too. And obviously Paul, serious fighter, had great kind of amateur career as well. And it's exciting to see him kind of, burst onto the scene here in the professional ranks too, Caoilte. What do you think of this one?
Yeah, no idea who he's fighting, no idea the promotion, but sure, look, it's brilliant
We'll
to
be
see.
hitting up. I don't know whether John will be listening or not, but we'll be hitting up John Mitchell for a stream for this one. I'd say. What you reckon?
So yeah, Jesus, because like it came out of nowhere. I remember seeing something being like, I think did they announce that John Mitchell was going to be at the show before they even announced the Paul Bucky fight, I think. So, but yeah, look, he's going to, because obviously John will be in the corner for Paul. It'll be, yeah, it's good to see him back. Haven't a clue about the opponent, as I said, but fighting over in Dubai now, I believe it is, training out there with good Irish contingent over there. And yeah, he didn't have a run out in 2024. So it'll be interesting to see how he's improved over the course of that year. And especially now that he's moved over to Dubai. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on.
Yeah, definitely will. Now, hopefully, he can kind of stay active in 2025 because he's an uber talent, and you need those reps at this stage of the early stages of your professional career as well. So, be interesting to see how Paul does there. Omar Tugarev and Omran Shaban both in action as well on February 15th on the same day. Cage on the beach. We're going to be bringing our sunglasses and our sun blocker over there for this one. I'm sure Chris will have to pack in some of his supplies as well while he's heading over there to corner both of these guys, both from Team KF. Omar Tugarev, obviously 6-0, taking on Alan Cordero. Omran Shaban, 6-1, taking on Felipe Alves. Two good tests for both of these guys. Great to see him. Obviously, Omar has been very active so far this year, and Omran is kind of coming off of that Ultimate Fighter stint as well. It'll be good for him to kind of make waves after that, after success of that he had on that show too. So it's good to see the boys and seeing them over there fighting together. I'm really looking forward to seeing these two fights as well. Two good tests for the lads.
Crazy activity from Omar Tugarev. Like, Jesus, this is what 6 fights in. This is what 7th fight in less than 12 months, or just over 12. It's ridiculous the activity, and he's on this wave of momentum now that he just seems nearly unstoppable at the moment. Yeah, fairly all right testing. Alan Cordero back in Finland. So yeah, and then you've Omran, who that one came left to field. I did not expect to see him on the cage card. Especially I think it was announced a little bit closer to the date as opposed to Omar's one. But yeah, great to see the two of them in action. And I find I find it very ironic with like it being called Cage on the Beach, but if I look up temperature in Finland, it's like -5 right now. So
maybe hold off on the sunglasses and the sun cream then, eh?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't even know. Like, but yeah, brilliant. But Cage always have a good show. Always have all the best talent from in Finland always fighting it, and it seems as though all the best talent from Finland goes to Team KF as well. So we'll see if Chris manages to tout any other Finnish lads while he's over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, brilliant to see two in action.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Other fights that are coming up in between now and the next episode. Obviously, we'll talk about all of these fights in great detail and break them down on the next episode of the Ould Triangle. Henry Felipe Hercules is back in KSW on the 21st of February. So that's the 2 days before. So that would be on the Friday, I believe. Is that a Friday card?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the KSW having an unusually placed Friday card. So it'll be 2 days before the IÚR Fighting Championships. So all of these fights taking place within a week or so of each other. He comes in to take on Stephen Kurt at KSW 103. When you see Henry in there, Caoilte, you're going to be in for a rough and tumble, exciting fight whenever Hercules steps into the octagon and or into the cage, KSW cage. And I'm sure this will be no different too.
Oh yeah, he's always he's guaranteed entertaining fight when he steps into the KSW cage. It's been a little while since we've seen him, I believe, isn't it? But yeah, first outing of the year. So he's coming off. I think he's coming off 2 losses in KSW now. So I'd be hoping to change that around. Going up against the Stephen Curran, who's only making a second appearance inside KSW after big win over this Boris Barkowski in his last fight. So yeah, we'll guaranteed. Oh no, so, yeah, it'd be. I'm mixing up. I'm looking at Tapology here while I'm trying to, and I'm screwed it all up. But either way, look,
right.
it'd be it'd be good to see him back in there. And I'm sure Denny will be keeping us up to date with everything that's going on, and he'll have his preview out beforehand to get a good feel for what we can see in this one.
Be surprised if we didn't see him over there watching this one live as well. Likes to go over to the old KSW shows us, Shawnee as well. But yeah, moving on. Let's talk about a couple of fight announcements here before we get into the IMMAFs, which are coming up as well, Caoilte. Cage Warriors 188 starting to take shape. Set for April, obviously in the RDS. We have a welterweight fight between Adam Darby and Thomas Lagunowski. Has been announced as well. Scott Harvey versus Leon Armes in the featherweight division. Keogh obviously announced he's officially signed for Cage Warriors as well, and expected to be matched on that card along with Conor McCarthy, Max Lally, Alexander O'Sullivan, and Jer Harris, all teasing fights on that card. Want to just pick out one of the fighters that we've mentioned and all that, and I'll go over for your thoughts. Great to see Alexander O'Sullivan back in action. I know he had been dealing with some health issues, and I'm very eager to I know he's been on with us before. Definitely want to chat with Alex ahead of this one. Obviously doing some fantastic work from a coaching perspective at CMAC with all the fighters over there, and obviously great to see Keith signed up alongside his coach as well. But great to see Alexander back, and a very, very good, exciting card that's materializing here in the RDS, and kind of, if you want to call it, for lack of a better term, maybe highlighting the next wave that's coming through in Irish mixed martial arts, Caoilte, in some ways.
Yeah, we're getting lads who are kind of nearly on that, some of them that are nearly breaking into that title fight region where they're becoming kind of nearly veterans, maybe trying to push on to titles, UFC, and the likes of James Sheehan's case. And then you've got the likes of the Alexander O'Sullivans, the Conor McCarthy's, Max Lally's, Keith Keogh's, that are all kind of early in their pro career and ready to really, make waves inside that Cage Warriors cage. And yeah, it's really exciting, and it's good to see Cage Warriors coming back as well and putting on these cards, signing all these lads and giving them fights. So hopefully we can see them all stay active over the course of the year and kind of have a bit of momentum here. So brilliant card. It looks like it's going to be a brilliant card, and from the fights that have been announced already, and Adam Darby and Thomas Langowski, good to see Adam Darby back in there. I think he had a tough time with injury last year. And then you've got Scott Harvey. Really excited to see Scott Harvey back in there against Leon Arms. Scott Harvey's been, he's been flying very in good. Cage Warriors. Yeah,
I agree with you, though. Great to see Darby back as well, after a tough 24 with injuries and stuff like that back in the welterweight. I think, obviously with Jimbo Slice is also being announced for the top of the card, defending his welterweight title against Justin Burlinson. And I think, Cage Warriors have a good problem to have, in that the space is kind of starting to wear out here, and there's a lot of Irish talent there that might still want to be matched for that card. Obviously, Emer Darcy, we'd expect to see. She's been announced for two.
She's announced,
she has, yeah. So, that's going to be a hell of a card that's taking place in April, and, I'm very excited for that as well. We also have some announcements, obviously, from Cage Conflict. Graham Sheehan, obviously, Team O'Neill's Graham Sheehan, making his professional debut. I got him still as an amateur there. I don't know whether you have any
the technicalities.
I would say Stevenson will be back open arms now.
He did the same thing, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So he can't talk too much. But Graham Sheehan, I'm very excited to see him make his professional debut against Marek Jamitowski, or Mo, that's a tough name. The guy that he's
Denny will be onto a side saying
he's going to kill us for that, Denny. Jackie Moshiash. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have tried it again.
That second one. No.
The second one was terrible. Denny, send me a voice note and correct me on that horrific pronouncement of Graham Sheehan's opponent. But there's a bit of a buzz on the scene for Graham's debut here. Caoilte, obviously coming through a very successful amateur run as well. It's very exciting to see him make his professional debut in the middleweight division here at Cage Conflict.
Yeah, he's not fought in ages. I think his last one was 2022. So that's quite a bit of time out of the cage. Hasn't had much luck with fights. I think he was matched last year for Cage Legacy. That fell through. and then he's meant to have his pro debut on Clan Wars 50, and that fell through. So fingers crossed now that we get to see him in the cage after such a kind of long period out. And yeah, it's a tough fight, against someone. Marek he's trained out of FAI. He's on a bit of a bad run at the moment, but this is a lad who's fought and he made his debut on Bellator once back in 2020. It's not going to be it's not going to be an easy fight.
It's a tough, well matched debut now, but
brilliant. Yeah,
I think one that's going to be a competitive fight, given the skill sets that I feel that Graham possesses as well. But also on the card announcements, amongst other fights as well, but ones we'll highlight today. Jason Trehan takes on Owen Mass-Oliver. That's a great fight for the amateur bantamweight title. Amateur super lightweight title, Blaine McGill versus Dominic Rhodes, another great fight too. And an amateur catchweight fight between Rory Burke and Johnny Thompson also announced for that Cage Conflict card. Who all the guys at Cage Conflict been putting on some solid cards now, obviously over the last couple of years. And it's great to see the professional fights mixed with the amateur fights on this one too, Caoilte.
Yeah, this one looks like it's going to be one of their best cards, to be honest. It's got that potential to be like the standout one. And yeah, brilliant. Really, really strong start to the year. Love the name of the show as well. Modern Warfare, I think they call this one. The branding, I just love the branding they do is top tier.
I'm all for naming shows like old school UFC way. Name those shows. I love it. The way the Cage Conflict guys do it.
Yeah, they should have had loads now. I think. Well, is this Mayhem, Reckoning, Anarchy? They're always good. They're always good. So, but Modern Warfare I think is my favorite one yet. And yeah, the fights are just as good. With Brian Manning and Sean McCormick headlining the card. Corey McLaughlin's back. Nadine Abbott-Bissett, Graham Sheehan, you name it. It's going to be it's going to be a top card.
Yeah, 100%. Ciaran Mulholland is also back. Clan Wars 51 fight was announced, obviously, since the last time we were on. He takes on Aaron Brogan. After quite a stint away, Ciaran Mulholland is back, and it's good to see him back. Like a solid fighter, great fella. And, he's coming back looking to try get into the win column. It should be an interesting fight. I view this as a pretty winnable fight for Ciaran. He's gone in there against tough competition. Obviously, no disrespect to Aaron Brogan. Has not had the best starts of his professional career, but still a dangerous opponent nonetheless.
Yeah, Aaron Brogan, he's been fights there against Jack Orr and Gary Rooney in his last two. Ciaran Mulholland, he's very, very experienced. He's been out a while though. I think last time we saw him was against that Ger Harris fight that out the hype before that because of the Irish versus Irish clash was just brilliant. It was a fantastic fight as well. So good to see him back in there. It's up at bantamweight as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see now how Ciaran looks because it's been so long. If he's how he's developed in certain ways, or if can he just bring back what we saw from 2021 when he was really, really active and he got those 3 finishes in the space of a year. So yeah, I would say it's quite a winnable fight for Ciaran Mulholland here, but overall, it's just good to see him back in there,
Yeah, 100%. Last one before we move over, and I'll send it to you for the IMMAF update. After a 5-year hiatus out of the cage, the return to Dylan Logan. Yeah, he's back. Brilliant to see Dylan coming back. Obviously, he had a tough couple of years there, coming off of a horrific knee injury. Has been kind of in and out of a couple of gyms, finds himself at Kildare Mixed Martial Arts now, and that fighting out of that gym. And he'll take on Grant Ogborn at Raged UK for the lightweight title on March 8th. So obviously, it's a little bit away, but a name that I was delighted to see back. All credit to him. He's getting back in there, and hopefully we can come back and win a title straight away. But it's good to see Dylan back, isn't it, Caoilte?
Yeah, it's that wasn't on my 2025 Irish MMA bingo card, to be honest. But it's good to see he's back training where it kind of all began at Kildare MMA. I could be wrong on that one, but I believe that's where he kind of got started training. So back training there now, and yeah, it's big massive hiatus. Tough fight as well against this Grant Ogborn. I think Ogborn he was on Cage Warriors before, fought over in that promotion WOW in Spain. It's the lad who do you know who it is? It's the lad that fought Taka at Cage Warriors 157. He right and lost he lost against Tak in that one. So we know it's going to be a tough fight, and it'll be a tough one to come back to. But it'd be interesting to see how Dylan looks after all this time out, because 5 years is a long time, especially with the injury as well, But exciting.
And sometimes it's good to kind of take your time and come back when you have to get yourself physically and mentally prepared after such a horrific injury as well. So I think taking that time sometimes can work in your benefit. So it'll be interesting to see how Dylan goes there. And let's wrap up today's episode, Caoilte, with an update on the IMMAFs. The Euros are taking place from February 14th to 23rd. So kicking off in just a couple of days, kicking off on Valentine's Day. We've got a youths heading out there, juniors and a senior team going out there. Caoilte, tell us the details, where it's taking place, and some names to look out for on all in the youths, the junior and senior rankings, obviously.
Yeah, it's their, I think it's the first IMMAF event of the year, of the 2020 kind of 5 calendar. I think I don't think they've had any other events, but they're back in Belgrade. IMMAF are, they seem to be, they love kind of these random European countries, Albania and so forth. But back in Belgrade for this one. They're not just, I think it's the second year running where they've had a youth European competition alongside the juniors and seniors as well. So it's going to be a busy week. I believe, from what I was told, that there's a Masters division, which there's no one in the Irish, no idea, to be honest. It sounds like a heap of shite.
What would be the regulations for a Masters, kind of?
I think you have to be over a certain age and there's no headshots, is what I've gathered about this. There was only 5 entrants, last I heard. I don't know if it's still going, if the Masters divisions are still going ahead. Quite the surprise. But no one entered from the Irish team in the Masters divisions from what I've seen. The youths is stacked as always, some standouts there. I think you got,
I can't get over the amount of youth you have. Everyone, we couldn't list everybody that's going over there, but I mean, there's an endless list here of youth fighters heading over there, which is great to see. It's fantastic to see. There's this great stable of fighters heading over there to compete in the youth section. Caoilte, any standout names in your opinions that maybe we should look at? I recognize the name of AJ Whitehouse and a couple of others there on that list. Anyone that you think we should be keeping an eye on?
Yeah, there's so many that come through the youth. The teams are so massive that it's hard to even it's hard to keep up with them, to be honest. There's a few that do you know that there's a few that kind of you remember the name, like Caoilte Gilhooly, you remember that name from previous teams. Caden Dalton as well. Alex Flanagan are ones that they're ones I remember from previous teams, but it's such a massive squad that it's hard to keep up nearly. But the youth team always thrives at these events, like always in the top 10 of the medals, and I expect it to be the same, to be honest. The Irish youth team is one of the best in the IMMAF ranks, to be honest. So that's kind of, I don't know, I haven't even counted how many are going, but I expect some medals next week, I'd say, from with the amount from going.
Yeah, 100%. Same, look, a decent junior squad heading over there too. I see, likes of Leah Bennett, Henry Lecca, amongst others, who are competing in the junior ranks as well. A decent stable of fighters heading over there to compete in that category as well, Caoilte.
Yeah, there's some cracker team Caoiltes. Alex Keogh
is there.
First outing of the year. Might bring back a medal. So tell you now, that's another run out. What are we 1-0 so far this year? So Alex is going to
definitely be getting some kudos if he brings back a medal anyway. So no pressure on Alex, but you know what I mean. We'll discuss what everything means, I guess, towards the end of the year. There'll be plenty of bickering and fighting and
all about the how do we score this, that, whatever.
yeah. We may like the draft. I think it'll be a lot of making it up as we go along.
and that Stevenson fella, he'll come in and he'll have some last minute, like one last thing, and it'll be this mad rule he'll throw out there.
Definitely pull a rabbit out of his hat some way, I'd say. Definitely would. But any other standouts there in the juniors before we move on to the senior?
The Abdul Malik Zubarayev, he was phenomenal in the most recent World Championships, and I imagine he's going to be one of the favourites in that Irish team to take back a medal. Kevin Walsh always, I think he did get injured in the World Championships and couldn't continue, which was a shame. But a real contender, some really good wrestling based with him, and I think he could go far. Henry Lake as well. So there's some new names in there as well. So a strong junior team heading over, and a bit of a smaller senior team, Ian.
Smaller, but a solid one. That being said, I mean, we will name them. There's 7 in total. Cian McCartan, Kyo O'Sullivan, Akeem Kinsella, Jordan Scully, Aidan Fagan, Tristan Barnett, and Senan Coakley all heading over to represent Ireland in the senior ranks as well. Solid crew there heading over at a condensed crew this year, Caoilte.
Yeah, and there's there's a lot of familiar names there returning. A lot of previous medalists. Jordan Scully, I think previous year, is he current European champion? He's gold medalist, multiple time medalist in IMMAF now. Cian McCartan's won the Euros before. Then Kyo O'Sullivan, former IMMAF world medalist, and it'll be exciting to see how she gets on now. There's going to be some stiff competition in there for her, and especially after the performances that we saw last year. So
probably without speaking too much out of turn, probably the last time we might see a few of these athletes compete at IMMAF level. Obviously, Kaya has been flirting with the idea of heading over and starting her professional career as well. I'd say, it won't be too long before we see Jordan Scully and maybe Cian McCartan heading over there as well. But I'm looking forward to that. It starts on February 14th. I'm sure you'll be tweeting and keeping in tune with the action over there, Caoilte. But IMMAF television, I guess, you'll probably be able to buy the stream and watch the fights over there.
Basically, yeah, the usual IMMAF TV is where they usually have it on. Get a pass for the week, and you can watch all the fights. You can rely on Smooth Comp if you want to try and hope that it gives you an accurate time when they're fighting. But in all honesty, it's a bit of a shambles as Smooth Comp. Very hard to figure out when someone's going to be fighting next.
It should be called the unsmooth comp because it's never smooth sailing when you're looking at the schedule there. Which, look, it is not all down to them. It's, the way these kind of fights, when you're trying to run multiple fights and over a course of a couple of days, there's always a little bit of delay or lag or some issues here and there as well. But, obviously we'll keep in touch. We'll live tweet and retweet any of the action or maybe some of the times that the fighters are fighting, and hopefully we get a good run in all 3 categories, in the youths and the junior and the senior, and hopefully we bring home a couple of medals as well. I'll put you on the spot here, Caoilte. Take a stab in the dark here. How many? It doesn't matter. Gold, silver, bronze. How many are we bringing back this year?
Oh God, across youth is going to be, I think if you include the youth in that figure, that's going to be about, I think the youths will probably have a good, how many youths there? Looking at about, say, 20 with the youths as it is. As for junior and senior, I'm going to take a guess at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to say seven medals across junior and senior, 7 or 8, because there's some tough divisions in there. Hopefully they all get one, but let's be real, it's tough, though, some of those divisions, and there's some lads that'll be finishing their kind of amateur career at this event with from other countries that are serious prospects. So it'll be tough this year, and we'll see who comes out. But I'm taking 7, 8 medals.
Yeah, nice one. Hopefully you're correct. Hopefully we get more than that, and we'll break all the action down, obviously, on the next episode of the Auld Triangle. Plenty to talk about, plenty to discuss. As always, thanks to everybody for listening. 78 episodes in. We still love doing this. We appreciate the support. Hit us with an old 5-star rating on Spotify or iTunes or SoundCloud. Go over and give us an old like there on YouTube as well. Help us with the algorithm. Andy went with Jose Algro. I don't know what Jose Algro in his absence. Eddie Algorvirez. Hit us with an old Eddie Algorvirez in the comments if you're listening here. Help the algorithm. help us with the algorithm. We do appreciate the support. Spread it out. Tell a friend. We miss Andy Stevenson. We look forward to his return. I don't believe he'll be back for the next one. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's here in spirit. He's here in memory, and I hope we hope he's having a great time over in Sri Lanka, Cambodia, wherever he finds himself when he's listening to this. And all is left for us to do is for Caoilte to see us out.
Gheorghe míle maith agaibh agus long go fóill.